Hi and welcome to this video. In this video we get a good chunk of bits done, so some good visual progress. Let's see what I get up to. Come on now. Okay, so first task I've been doing is getting the rudder sorted out, rudder cable sorted out, and I need a cable section to go down for the tail wheel steering, and to give it the best angle I wanted it to be joined onto the rudder cable as far forward as I could. So at the moment the rudder pedals are sprung forward, and I've got this, so this is just slightly short of the tube which it goes through there, and I've crimped the swage on, so we've got that done. And then here I've put a section of heat shrink. This heat shrink's got a glue on the inside, heat activated glue. The idea is that no matter whether it goes above or below the tailplane stays, it seems to be just about there. I think it'll be just on top. With the operation of the rudder, and that should be enough there. So it just gives that a little bit of protection, so we don't end up with the cable itself trying to saw through the aluminium tubes. So that's where I'm up to at the moment. I've got these shackles, they're just held in with R-clips at the moment, and there'll be thin washers underneath, between the shackle and the bell crank there on the rudder. So the next section is I've just got to look up. I'm going to set the rudder to the maximum deflection one way, and I'll weight the pedals to make sure they don't go down, and I'll set up the actual rudder cable through the shackle with a thimble on it, so that I can actually get that setup set. I'll swage that, and then we'll do the same thing for the other side, but I'll disconnect this cable sort of thing and do the other side, so that we get both sides the same. And then with them both connected up, I can then set the neutral and the tail wheel steering. That should be a bit of a laugh. Right, let's crack on. I've got the rudder set at its maximum travel here, so that's 35 degrees. It's in the instructions it says 30 to 35, so I've set it at 35 because cable stretches and things like that will lose rudder tension. So it's all held in position. I've just sort of set that up down there at so I can ready to crimp it or swage it. So I'll do the swaging down there, and then we'll confirm that we've got our full travel this way, and then we'll do the same to the other side. So there's the sort of weight on the pedal. You can sort of see that it's hard up against the stop. I've got secondary stops. I'll show you that. Yeah, there's a secondary stop which I will crimp once I've swage rather once I've got the rudder connected and fully travel one way. So these are just secondary stops. The primary stops being on the pedal itself, but this is a secondary stop just to stop when we put brake on. If I've got my right foot say fully forward, and I put my right brake on to try and turn a bit tighter, if I don't have any weight on the left pedal, in theory the tail wheel could drag the pedal further round, and it would mean that the rudder hinge would act as a stop. I don't want that, so these little stops here will act as a secondary stop. Right, I'll just get the rudder connected up now. I've done the swaging and put the heat shrinker bits on, so I can now do that, and I'll lock the rudder in a sort of central position, and we'll work out the tail wheel steering. Well, actually no, I'll put the rudder fully in one direction. We'll do the secondary stops, then we'll do that. Hey ho. Well, there's the secondary stop, so and the rudder is fully depressed at the pedal. You can just see there's a very slight clearance, but you can actually get a little bit extra just there for it to so it's not in contact with the straightforward rudder application on the pedal. It requires just that extra little bit that might happen from braking. It just stops it from going too far. And there are the pedals in their position, so nicely sort of set there. Right, I will now lock the rudder in the neutral position up here, and we can then make a start on the tail wheel steering. Right then, so this is the tail wheel setup. I've got the link loops each end of the spring there, so it's easy enough to disconnect the tail wheel. And I've got standard thimble and swage ready to go, and I've set it up so this is dead neutral on the tail wheel with the rudder clamped, and we don't want too much pre-tension. You know, I've got it tensioned there. I'm going to actually increase the tension by a 1/4 of an inch. So I'm actually going to shorten both cables by a 1/4 of an inch to put a preload in. Then I'll crimp it up at that. You don't want too much though, otherwise you end up pulling down on here, which just brings the rudder pedals back and reduces the amount of throw that we've got. Well, there we have the final setup, and I just get a little bit lower. You can see how that bit of pre-tension has actually pulled the rudder, the main rudder cable down here. When you put your feet on the pedal, that will of course lift up a little bit. That gives the preloading for the springs, so the tail wheel doesn't shimmy too badly on touchdown. But you can't have the tension any higher than that, otherwise it'll really pull down the rudder cable. It'll, you know, you'd end up with other issues elsewhere. But checked it out, still got the full range of motion. Always when you do things like this, confirm. We've done a modification to the system, so to speak, or we've added something to the system, so we need to check. And I've still got with full pedal each way, it comes out at just under 35 degrees, which is just about perfect. So 30 to 35, and we're there. So that's the rudder and tail wheel steering dealt with. Right, another job done. Okay, so what I've been doing is I've been cutting out bits of leather. These bits of leather are going to go around the Cabane struts themselves and glue onto the covering there to make a sort of seal. I've done it for the front one here, the middle one. That's got an extra hole in it to allow a fuel line to go through. I've done it for this one, although it doesn't really need one because it's got the windscreen, but I just thought it just keeps it the view looking the same on the outside. On these ones it's stop water, well, help reduce the chance of water coming in if you fly through rain and things. But this one, of course, behind the screen, it shouldn't have that issue. But hey ho, I just hopefully think it will look good. I am going to, because it does annoy me having that slight, there's a very slight, it's less than 2 millimeters, but it just visible, it annoys me. Little line there that's not quite right, and the ones on the other side which I've shown. I am actually going to put a trim stripe down the whole thing. I think that'll it'll get rid of that, which is an annoying factor, and I think it'll look quite nice. So there we go. But I've got to get that to here, because I haven't got enough of it from my old stock. So there's something else going on, and then another little bit of stuff. I've been painting the engine sort of bulkhead mounting plate that goes in front of the firewall there. So that's now had its well, it already had 2 coats of varnish into it to help seal it up, but now it's just had its 2 coats of that green paint. I've just got to put the thread inserts in at the end there for the cowl, and may need a little bit of touch up when it gets fitted, but hey ho, there we go. Another bit done. So we're getting through these little trivial jobs. Sorry, I'm not showing you much in the way of actual work going on. It's quite hard to show people somebody operating a paintbrush. Is not the most interesting thing in the world, or a paint roller in that case. We'll see what I can get up to. And for sharp eyes, you might have seen I've actually painted the engine casing. Again, nothing really much to show there. I just did that with an aerosol and masked it up. That's got to dry off before I even start assembling the engine. And as I've said to you in the past, I'm not going to show the engine build, because aero conversions who do the Aero V engine, Sonics, do such a good job with the DVD that they supply with the engine, and the instruction manual with the engine is so good. I don't think I'll be adding anything to the party by doing a video for it. All the Cabane struts have been painted with a etching 2K paint. Excuse me. Some of the print just shows through. It's quite a thin coat of very hard wearing paint. This is really good stuff I've used. Don't need to give it loads and loads, but it's there. Looks quite reasonable, and I've started putting things together. So all the nuts and bolts have been for the actual station sections on there are currently torqued and torque sealed, and I'm using this chart here. Let's see if I can get rid of the reflection from the AC 4313 1B tables 7-1 there, and we're on the fine thread, so we're looking down here and we're at the 10-32, and it's going the tension nut, because that's what most of those are, what the torque setting should be, so 20 to 25 pounds-inches, and so that's what I'm setting the torque wrench to. Is right in the middle of that, 23 pounds-inches, and torquing everything together. Well, there we have the Cabanes all in place, bolted up and torqued up. I did have to use the old trick because I couldn't get the torque wrench into everywhere, so using the measuring the length of the spanner from one end to the loop, and dividing the torque setting by that length, told me how much load to put on the end of the spanner with a a spring balance for the areas where I just couldn't get in with a torque wrench, and I don't have a crow's foot that was long enough either to do what I needed to do. Mainly for the front cabane strut going down. That was the most awkward one, but also for these little fellows up here, I can't get a torque wrench in onto the nut, and you don't torque the head of the bolt through because you have a resistance there all ready to turn, so you should always torque on the nut itself. So I just put the spanner in and then put the load on 90 degrees to the spanner to torque it that way. The poor man's torque wrench, but it works. It's all you're doing is putting a twisting force on, so it gets you out of a few holes hopefully. There are 2 grommets fitted over the heads of the bolts here for the Cabane struts. I think that just sort of set up, I think that finishes that off quite pleasantly, and it fades in quite nicely to that black line I've had to add. Hey-ho. Oh well, I have to sort of apologise. I've jumped ahead a little bit on the grounds that I had the camera needed to be charged, and so I've carried on doing work. Currently got the fuel line here. It's not fully in, so I'll show you a bit more detail about that in the next video. But I just put it in so I could get these leather patches put in around the Cabane struts, so that's done. And I fitted the windscreen. We're not talking about a lot of time involved here because it was already prepped. So this has got a seal between the aluminium and the covering. It's a black rubberized cloth. It's basically a thin stuff which we used to use for baffles on light aircraft and seals and things on some of the military aircraft around doors and things, just to help close off the doors. So I've used some scrap that I had picked up at some stage in the past, just to put as a cushion seal underneath, so that if we're flying through rain and things, we shouldn't get too much water coming back into the cockpit area. So really effectively, that's all you've missed out on. This is the same sort of glue as we used on the headrest, and I pre-applied the glue, then I put some fresh glue on here, wetted out the area on the actual covering by pushing this down and lifting it up very slightly. Then you go tacky, putting it down, and then just doing the final cure off, which it likes, with an iron. So there we are. As I said, I'll show you more detail about the fuel system I'm putting in at the moment, this section of the fuel system, in the next video. Well, that's it for this week. Got the rudder sorted out, Cabane's windscreen. The aircraft looks like it's coming together, but there's still a lot of detailed work to do. So hopefully you'll join me in the next video. Keep well and catch you in the next one. Bye now. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the thumbs up. You can subscribe or even hit the little bell notification for future videos. Any comments would be appreciated, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Remember, go fly and feel the sky.